Thank you for tuning in to today's collective reading. This is Trinity Gaia Oracle. I want to express my gratitude for your tuning in for this reading and introduce you to this timeless reading. Whenever you encounter this 3 months going forward collective reading for you, it is meant for your time. There is something in it for you, whether it's time oriented or specific for you in that moment. This is also set up in a way that came to me as more of a choose your own story. So, throughout this reading, there will be two prominent options available for you for what resonates most with you. And this begins with where you currently are and whatever actions you're currently in, that is the beginning for you. So, the first placement is about where your mind is. What are your thoughts? What knowledge are you gaining? What are you putting time into to master, to study? What fascinates you intellectually right now that you're focused on? Where is your mind? And this is an oracle card that's really centered a lot around truth, mastering truth. What does it mean to you to be vulnerable, to be completely bare before another person, let alone yourself, to see yourself clearly? Sometimes you need someone to reflect back to you those truths that you can only truly appreciate when you see your reflection. Until then, some of these things are kind of stuck in the shadows. It's hard for you to see yourself clearly. So this is where your mind is at, and clarifying this is the Five of Pentacles in the upright. So this is something that you are really diving deep into. You want to understand it fully before you move, before you take an action. And you may be getting some input, some advice from a very trusted confidant, or you could literally be alone in this process. Now, this confidant may not get the whole picture. You may just ask one deep question here or there, and that's it. But you are very focused and selective on who you ask and discerning about the advice or reflection they give you, because it's more for a validation about another individual that you are wanting to have this vulnerability, this reflection, this genuine honesty. It's not about the person that you're getting this input from or advice. It's almost a shot of courage almost to step in to that very important moment of beginning to do that work with someone. That you've done as much shadow work as you can on your own, and you need a mirror now. You need someone to truly reflect you. And that's very hard for just anybody to do. We all are very unique. So this may be a friend, a family member, someone older, someone wiser, possibly from your perspective. You're very selective in who you ask these questions of. And it's vague enough that they don't understand the importance to you. It's very it's almost like you've mastered being an illusion. So now you're fascinated with truth. So that's where your mind is at right now. It's pretty wicked, actually. It's really cool. So now we're going to move into where your emotions, feelings, what you're intuitively picking up, what your inner higher self, your inner connection to the divine, what you're just kind of picking up that is coming through in your emotions and your feelings, which definitely affects where your mind is at, but it's kind of its own box. However, there is interaction. There is a causal and effect relationship between your mind and your feelings or emotions. And this is for right now. Right now. At the beginning of this 3 month or quarter time of the year. Okay. So you are feeling like you have made a breakthrough, like you've somehow risen above some adversity, some obstacle, some very dark path that you could have gone down, but you did the necessary shadow work. You looked at your wounds and your subconscious and your feelings, and how if someone were to say just the right thing at just the right moment, it would completely change the decision you would make going into the next interaction, and how that changes the path you take, because that next interaction could change your world, could change your life. And if you think that the divine is at play in your life, there are energies, aspects that have to give you the option to not choose the higher path. It's how you learn, it's how you assess how much you've grown, is which path you choose. So in this instance, the entire collective has chosen to rise above this adversity, to not sink deeper into despair, but to choose hope, to empower themselves. And clarifying this, we have the Ace of Wands in the upright. You are aware of the connection that you have to the divine, the love within you, the light within you, and that you continually choose hope and love and light leads to a path where love and light empower you to continue walking that path. And you're aware of that. You've had this connection, this reciprocated verification somehow through your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, your dreams, your daydreams, even. However, you most recognize synchronicities, how the divine speaks to you. This is a thing where nothing's coincidence. Nothing is coincidence. So if you see something that stands apart and has meaning for you, it does. You see it for a reason. It's there for a reason. Maybe you need 3 or 4 more clarifications or synchronicities, but hold on to that synchronicity because it is intentional. Even if it is just something sent to you from your higher self or your future self, they're helping you to choose the best timeline for you by giving you that synchronicity. So you have had this connection established in your feelings, your emotions, and your intuition, your connection to that light within self, that you have risen above this, that you are freed from that oppressive weight. Whatever the situation may be, it was a path that had no hope on it, that would lead to you being without light. And to this collective, that was unacceptable. And that has manifested in this breakthrough. So, congratulations, my spiritual warriors, my collective that's tuning in. Congratulations and kudos, because this is not an easy path to walk. It is not an easy path to walk. Your current actions at this time. Now, this is where the timelines will split to, if you resonate more with timeline A or timeline B. It does not matter if you're more of an A or more of a B. There is broader strokes specifically for the path that you choose. So I would recommend that if you're available to have like a pen, paper, to take notes, use a pencil, however you need to kind of lock this into place for yourself as to A, B. If you prefer option 1, option 2, that's fine. There could be some number synchronicity in that for you as well. And you can do whatever you need to do with the numerology of it. You can add them up however you choose and find meaning within that. But for this collective reading, it's going to be, 2 options. If I were to be doing more of a personal, there would be more clarifiers to go more into detail. I have pulled some cards for that in case I'm directed to. I do not need the cards to read the energy, but I know that the cards help quite a bit for those tuning in because they each mean something unique to each and every one of us. So that being said, your current actions are looking at how you are your own best companion. Now, this highlights a couple things. How do you take care of your body? Do you eat well? Do you sleep well? Do you have daily routines and rituals of hygiene or of self-pampering? How do you take care of your environment? Do you spend time outside? Do you hang out with friends, family? Are you in hermit mode? If you're in hermit mode, how do you fill your own cup with the companionship of being your own best friend? How do you speak to yourself internally as you move throughout your day? If you're spending, most of your time alone, how does your inner masculine voice speak to you? The assertive yang energy, how does that energy speak to you? Is it critical or is it supportive and nurturing? And then how does your receptive feminine energy, how does that energy speak to yourself? So these questions are all questions that come into play as to how are you your own best friend? How do you nurture yourself and care for your body in this physical reality? Timeline 1, you're currently in a state of 5 of swords. So there's some inner conflict right now, and you're in a state of reflection. You're not in full defense mode, but you're prepared to be defensive. Almost as though you're starting to step away a bit from being fully in PTSD mode, like high alert, ready to respond at any moment. You're moving away from that. There's some light coming through, and you're understanding how the emotions and the thoughts are connected to your actions and how you can be manipulated by outside energies because you have been so predictable. However, this being said, you've done your shadow work. You've done your shadow work because you're not in full on defense mode. You're not fully living in fight or flight. You're able to see these patterns now and thus not be an autopilot. You're starting to see the light in the enlightenment, the empowerment, the positive sides of being aware of these patterns to consciously choose the path you choose. This is definitely as a result of choosing the path of hope. You have hope. Hope is there. You're aware of these patterns, and because of that, you can choose which pattern to empower or not. That is currently where you are. You're learning. You're continuing to do the shadow work, but you're no longer fully in fight or flight. And this is allowing you to now question, how are you nurturing yourself even more to be that best friend for yourself? Before you involve another energy or individual, you got to be your own best friend. You got to know yourself. You got to be willing to give to yourself and understand your boundaries. And you are definitely on the path right now of learning and mastering that. You've got quite a bit of it down. Now it's just refinement. For timeline 2, we have the Page of Wands and the Upright. And this is a very youthful energy here. There's an innocence to it, a like childhood dream almost. Like this is something that you wished upon, and you're at that threshold of crossing over into the new possibilities of maybe being able to have what you desired as a child. Now, this doesn't have to be some grand thing like I wanted to be a bajillionaire or I wanted to become a giraffe or a lion or, something like that. It can be very grounded in that I want to know what it is to be loved for who I am, not for what I make, provide, what I give. Like it's not an exchange, it's a real connection. It could be something as simple as that. Now, it sounds simple, but it's incredibly complex and it's almost a mystery. It sounds simple, but it's possibly the most fulfilling thing that any of us could ever experience. And this is something that you have manifested and you're beginning to own that it's happening, that you're living it, that it's not a fantasy or fiction, that you were heard as a child when you asked for this, that the divine heard your heart. And this is still something that you've been working towards, however unconscious you may be of that. You're on that threshold of recognizing that it is now, that you are living it. And it begins with being that for yourself first. I also get like an emotional experience of anticipation and excitement of falling in love with self, of nurturing self, of discovering what you can do for you. How good can you be for you? Knowing that it will lead to a reciprocation, yes, but having fun with discovering how good you can be for you. Okay, so that was timeline B or 2. And that's where you are. So whichever path you chose, make note of that. Whichever timeline you chose, make note of that. Now we're going to move into option A or B, 1 or 2, for what actions you're wanting to take next. Where are you moving towards next that you're currently aware of right now? What is your goal? Where are you wanting to be? You want to be heard. You want to share yourself. You want to have conquered that shadow work. You want to have owned that and now share that wisdom, share yourself, because you know yourself so much more completely that you are aware that your voice is needed, even if this is just for one person that you share this with, and not necessarily a lot of someone's. Like maybe you'd want to be a teacher. Maybe you have music. Maybe you have art. Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe there's something that you know will touch many. It can be something as large as that and as simple as one person that fully knows you. It could be nurturing a child. It could be anything. Like nothing is insignificant in the waves that we create in this world. And this is you wanting to share your wisdom, yourself in this healed state. This is something that is also attached to the number 11. So it could be reciprocated. It could be something that is in co-creation with divine. This could be a symbol of your light work, definitely. Your path of choosing to share love, light, helping others choose hope, empowering others to choose hope. For timeline A, or if you prefer the number 1, we have the 10 of Swords in the upright. So this would be speaking to how you overcame something that at one point instilled such an instinctual fear within you that you felt you couldn't move past it. However, you overcame it because of where we were with the heart space, how you moved through that, the wisdom you gained, your process, your thoughts, sharing how you overcame what was meant to be the end. And instead, you turned into a new beginning. And how that wisdom, that path, your process can help others be empowered to choose hope again. So we are all connected to each other, all of us, from simple interactions to really deep connections, brief passings to close family members. We all affect one another. And this right here, this wisdom, this light work that you have, this sharing of how you empowered yourself to choose hope, in spite of overwhelming or what appeared to be overwhelming odds, you chose love and light chose you back. Thus, you were able to turn it into a new beginning. Beautiful. Beautiful. So that's timeline A, or 1. Timeline B, or 2, we have the 6 of Cups in the upright as well. I will read some of these in their inverted meanings as well, because you could be establishing not just, hey, I want people to give to me equally. If I give and they don't give back, No, no, I'm not gonna give again. I'm not gonna give to a situation that only takes from me. An individual, a dynamic, a job, even a career, because this is very light work oriented. If you have been focused in a career path where you give, and nothing comes back, it's time for reassessment. Is this really where you want to be? Is this truly the path you want to take? This can be simply in this position to ask you to question if this is the path you want or the path that you're on. Is this truly what you want, or do you want to be on timeline A or 1? If so, how could you maybe make some different decisions? And we'll be moving into advice next from, your ancestors, your guardians, your guides, your higher self, the divine. But with the 6 of Cups, she's got her back to this mirror in this image, and hope is definitely present. So she's starting to turn her head to look into her reflection. She's got that courage now to give to herself, to see herself more clearly. She's feeling empowered enough for that. And this is more of the upright version that I'm now being led to channel for you. This is also a courage and empowerment because of the synchronicity that you got that allowed you to know that, yes, you have risen above this storm, this oppressive energy. You have chosen love and light, and it chose you back. You decided you wanted to be happy, so happiness chose you too. Is you're beginning to do a whole nother chapter of your shadow work by beginning to look fully in your mirror. And this process is beginning to, A, be something you move into that's very private at this time, but is necessary for the light work that you will be giving, birth to, if you will, that you will be giving to the world. You'll be giving to those closest to you. This healing, this process of looking into your reflection, and this can be another individual who is that reflecting aspect for you, that rare person that is capable of reflecting you back to you. That healing that you do in that shadow work that you do in that is private now, but will be forming the shadow work that you will be gifting to others to help them. Also, find love and light. Choose to be empowered and wanting a better life, wanting to be happy, and knowing that's possible. Helping them with those steps. To some people, both paths, like, they're kind of intertwined. There's a lot of interconnection, but that's very unique and individual. But there's a lot of interconnection there. If I were doing a personal, I would really dive deeper into that specific spot in the reading. So, moving into the advice that the guardians, the guides, the ancestors, your higher self, your future self come back to communicate with you about the path you've chosen to help guide you towards your happiness. This advice definitely speaks to mastering that shadow work and knowing that you're not alone in that journey, that you're walking hand in hand with the divine, that you are protected, even if you encounter some things that are not very pleasant. That's part of doing shadow work, is sometimes you have to be triggered in order to heal the wound. You have to get the pus out in order for the antibiotic to fully take effect, for it to heal. If timeline option A or 1 or timeline option B or 2 resonates more with you, I'll be pulling on these now. So for timeline A or 1, we have the 7 of Swords. Now, this is speaking to me of reflecting upon the illusions present around you. When you read a history book, there is a common saying is the history books are written by those that triumphed, like those that won the war write the history. So it's a biased story. So there's illusion. There's some glossing over of some of the lesser, some of the more unsavory aspects that they don't want to be teaching their youth about their own nation or people, right? So that's a very broad perspective. Now, to bring it down to the individual, what stories are those around you telling you about themselves and their lives when it's trying to make their perspective, their experience seem more in the sympathetic role, when in reality, they played an active role in creating whatever conflict is present in their story? The concept of it takes two. So there was two parties to a conflict. One party is not. So when you tell this story or you hear someone tell this story to you, it's gaining that discernment, that awareness that they're presenting their biased perspective, and it's going to paint them in a more sympathetic light. It's gaining that awareness. So to take everything with a bit of a grain of salt at the surface level and look deeper. Look deeper. Be aware of what's deeper, which is that they want to be perceived in a more positive light. They want to belong. Thus, those same stories we tell ourselves, about our world. To gain awareness of this, to nurture it, to hone it, to not judge, but just to be aware. So this is the advice for timeline, A or B. If this resonates most with where you are currently in this reading with the timeline. Now, timeline B or 2, we have the Knight of Cups. What is your relationship to romantic, emotional interaction? What do you give your love to, even if it's not romantic? What do you give your energy to that's emotional, that's feeling, that's love-based? And then why? Why do you give to that? And or, the reverse, why don't you give to what you long to give to? What holds you back? Because there is also like a reflection, but it's like it's a painting. This is how you perceive yourself, and you feel you must meet this expectation because you're not ready to see your reflection. You want to be this and be perceived this way, even though it's not your reflection. It's an unwillingness to see yourself as you are or as you are perceived by others. So you cannot actually heal what you give to and what you don't give to, what you want to give to but choose not to. Why there's a very strong sense of loneliness and longing from this card. So this is shadow work based around what you give to and what you don't give to. And this can be very intense and very scary, but as stated at the beginning of this placement, you are not alone on this path. You're not alone on this. You are capable of mastering this. And in mastering this card will turn into you seeing your reflection clearly through another. You will know that you are thus loved, appreciated for who you actually are, not what you want to be perceived as. And the sense of longing and loneliness will basically be replaced by the Sun card upright energy. You're going to be surprised by who you are and how much you love yourself because of how you're reflected back to yourself through this other individual. You're going to fall deeper in love with yourself because you'll know yourself more. But right now, if you're resonating with more of the inverted, more of what's at face value on this energy card here, you're lonely, you're longing for companionship, you're sad, You want to be perceived in a certain way because you're so worried you won't be loved for who you actually are underneath it. So much so that you don't allow yourself to see yourself as you actually are. So you must fall in love with yourself. Be willing to see yourself as you are, with what you give to and what you don't give to, and why you choose not to give to things you want to. And you choose to give to things you don't actually want to. Self-sabotage in this instance. Are you really protecting yourself, or are you harming yourself? These questions are what you're going to be really needing to explore, and what you're going to be guided through, helped through. This is a bit of a heads up with that, I guess. I'm excited for you because on the other side of doing this work, you're going to be able to have that experience. Now, both of these can definitely be valid to be aware of, but they are predominant energies for specific timelines that are most likely. There are different breaks that are to come in the next 3 months. Decisions that you make, paths that you choose, will lead you down the pick your own path, like choose your own path of this reading in the next 3 months. The most likely outcome. Now this is interesting. I had the card that really speaks to self-mastery, that you choose your path completely. You're able to tune deeply within and be aware of all the different elements going on within self, that time of self-reflection of looking within. That came out in the oracle inverted. It flipped out. So it wants me to highlight how important this is in the outcome. That this is going to be a learning process of an entire lifetime. You will always be the student. Just as I am, just as anyone you encounter, we are always learning and growing and evolving. And that is beautiful because that means that life is always surprising you and you're always falling deeper in love with yourself. And as you fall deeper in love with self, you know the divine more, you know hope more, you know what happiness is more, what it is to be empowered within those things, and thus capable of sharing that love, sharing that empowerment, that hope with others. This is a stretching of the self to be able to live more fully in that experience. It's the outcome before the collective here. Now, I did have another card come out in the inverted here. It's like they certainly, they come out in a way that it's just not coincidence, and I honor that. So for timeline A, or 1, for this pick your own path part of the reading, we have the death card inverted, which tells me this is 100% a new beginning, and it's coming in fast. It knows what it wants. This path is focused. Those of the collective listening, you know what you want. And what you want knows that you know that. It's reciprocating that. It's mirrored. There is a energy of new beginnings. There's a bunch of little butterflies, and the horse that this particular individual is riding, it reminds me of it's a unicorn, actually. Or wait, no, that's a bit of the moon in the background. Huh. So because of the shadow work, because of all this shadow work, you're capable of knowing that the end to whatever this could be that you're manifesting is not acceptable, and that you're capable of turning what could be the end into a new beginning because you've already done so. You know that when it's not acceptable to you, it's not acceptable, thus it doesn't happen, because you won't let it. You act towards hope, towards light, towards love, towards joy, towards happiness in your life, and it chooses you back. Thus, you manifest it. Because of this very deep, deep shadow work, you've delved deep into that subconscious, and any part of you that wouldn't choose light or love, that wouldn't choose to move out of the way of you owning that that's the path you want, you have been capable of getting all of you behind the direction that you want to go in. Now, I do hear very clearly that this needs to be shared for those in the collective that feel very strong in their yang energy, feel very protective of whatever they're moving towards, almost to a point of aggressively protective with the aspects within them that would be blocking that path. So, to that, the phrase that is being channeled through me at this point is focused anger, rage is the most dangerous weapon that you can wield. In other words, there's a fight scene in, I think it's Aaliyah, and she was in it. I think it's like Romeo and Juliet, kind of. I can't remember the title of it. But he's fighting another individual who is definitely corrupted. So this would be like, in this example, this would be your shadow self. This would be the part of you that's standing in your way. And the moment that you stop feeding into the fear, the anxiety, the anger, the rage, and letting it be acted out in rash decisions, rash actions, instead, you hold that in, you look at the situation, and you know the best option, and you put all of that energy towards that option. That is why Soldier actually said this to me. A similar example would be a family, someone defending their children, their home, their family is going to be far more effective because they're passionate. It matters than a paid mercenary attacking. They're just getting a paycheck. That's not their child. That's not their home. That's not their property. That's not their pets. Very different level of motivation. So this energy has been directed at the obstacles between you and giving to what you actually want. And that has allowed you to have this new beginning on this path. Now, I'm not going to say that this individual doesn't have insecurities, doesn't have, and this could be you, definitely, or it's mirrored back to you. There's going to be fears, there's going to be anxieties, there's going to be insecurities, but you're aware of them. You've acknowledged them. Thus, they are not in control. You are. And you're choosing. This energy is choosing the new beginning. Because why not? Why not choose love and light? It chooses you back. Even if this does not quite go exactly as you foresee, it's going to be of love, of light, of joy, of happiness. So you're moving towards something that's going to reciprocate how you feel, regardless. Though it will surprise you. And that's where the divine is giving you that gift. There's a surprise. There's a bit of a mystery. There's a bit of the unknown. And that's how you live in the now. Not in the past, not in the future, the now. And a lot of what I just spoke to definitely will resonate with path 2. There's a reason there's a separating. There's a reason why it's 2 paths and not like 50 that I'm going through. 2, there's going to be a lot of energy that's similar, that will be unique to each individual. But in this reading, it's going to be more of an overview of the 2 paths. Now, for path or timeline B, or number 2, we have the star in the upright. This outcome is speaking to how much you give to self, how much you put of yourself into your own jar. How much light and love do you give to yourself? and the discernment of how much you allow to be taken out of your own, your own reservoir. So the outcome here is an awareness that you have to have reciprocating exchanges of energy, of time, of thought, of emotion, of co creation, of experience. You have to have reciprocating energy because you cannot move forward in what you came here to do if you are always running on E, if you're always running on fumes. You can't do your light work if you're there. You have mastered that awareness in this path, and you're still having to consistently remind yourself, setting those boundaries, learning new ones because you encounter new situations. You are always learning and teaching, if nothing more than by example. You don't have to preach it to walk it. This is the path where you're highly aware of what you give to gives back. That's how it has to be. It can't be give, 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 and no receive. The interrelation between the two here is that by giving yourself time, attention, energy, pampering, by setting boundaries with those that you give to, where if they don't give back, you don't give again. That boundary, that protection of self, that allows you to have enough of this love and light energy within you to continually attract more love and light, more happy interactions, joyful interactions, positive interactions. The more of this that you protect and make it you must give in order to receive, or receive in order to give dynamic with those in your world and around you, the more capable you are to attract more and more of the same thing, of a higher and higher amount. Now, this could be it could be love, it could be money, it could be anything, really. Abundance is such a broad experience, such as would ask yourself this question: would you rather have money or love in your life? Would you rather be rich in money or rich in love? Now, this is very one or two, black or white. It's not gray at this point. There's no varying degrees within the two of a mixing. It's either completely rich in love or completely rich in money. All right, with that answer, what is like the most predominant and like your understanding of the reasons why, now we move a little bit more into the gray of it. Money cannot buy loyalty, happiness, passion. The paid mercenary will not fight with the same passion as the farmer, the husband, or the wife, or the big sister, big brother protecting family, property, pets, their home. So to find the middle ground within this is to attract both, to have enough abundance, money, to be able to have everything you can need and some things you want, and to have that love, that passion, that it's not an exchange of I give you this, you give me that. It's I'm choosing to be here when I could be elsewhere, but I choose to be here. My loyalty, my love, my heart, my emotion is in this creation. It's a beautiful, beautiful result. This is the outcome of knowing at the very least that this is exactly where you're going. This is what you're manifesting. This is something you're learning still, and you're teaching, if nothing more than by leading by example. You may not have it completely mastered in 3 months. You may be putting your first foot on that path of learning it. But that's amazing to be on that path. That's awesome. Congratulations for choosing path A or B. They're both amazing. They're two sides to the same coin, but what side you are on is where you're focusing the most. And that could be something that's Do you feel more predominantly, you know, towards going towards something or towards being protected and protective of that energy of self? Now, these two energies, and this definitely came to me. These two these two timelines or paths. If you feel that it's more of a path, this could be a path or a timeline that you are actually traveling together with another energy. And they choose timeline A because it resonates with them, but they're actually walking timeline A alongside timeline B. And timeline A and timeline B are actually walking one path. So that would then be path or timeline C or 3. See how it gets just more and more complicated? Is the more deeply you look into it, but that definitely needed to be said, or I would not have channeled it. Everything that comes through me here is definitely meant to be said. So how does this then at this placement, at the end result of the 3 months, how does this change where your thoughts, your mind, your knowledge, your subconscious awareness of the self, how does that change these things where you're standing for the collective overall? Now, for where your mind is at, we had, really that mastery of seeking to master being vulnerable, completely bare before another, the one that can mirror you completely. How do you do that? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Where am I not being transparent enough to be able to be reflective completely with another? We had the Five of Pentacles, very introspective, learning, assessing. You have, at the end result of 3 months, you have moved from this, I'm not sure, I got to analyze it, got to figure it out, getting maybe 1 or 2 bits of advice. You've acted towards it. You've taken that step. And we have the 4 of Swords here for where you are intellectually in the mind. That is where you'll end up at this time on the timelines for the ending of this reading, the outcome for this reading. So it's healing together. It's healing what you have learned through this reflection and what it says about self and what you co-create to allow to remain and empower together. It's the intertwining, the interweaving that occurs when you have a reflection come back at you like that. This tells me that you do find the ability to continue to become more and more vulnerable with another energy. The first time you reflect one another, first time you see your reflection, you may not see it clearly. They may not see it clearly, but it continues to become clearer and clearer. Both sides want to be able to be fully seen by another. And the emotions, where your feelings, thoughts, emotions, how this kind of all interrelates, because your thoughts trigger emotions and emotions trigger thoughts. There's that back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The emotion side was the awareness of rising above, choosing hope, to rise above an oppressive energy or dynamic or path that led down a reality without hope. This is the rising above that. In the emotions, you, as a result of choosing to rise above, you find yourself in a balanced emperor energy. So your inner masculine voice is not critical, is not a negative experience. It's not an over exaggerated masculine energy that you act out in your daily life that can come across as controlling and micromanaging of every little detail. So it's more of a balance of wanting to nurture. So the last thing you want to do is brush your teeth and wash your face because you're almost desperate for the pain relief. So your inner masculine voice the part of you that gets you to motivate to do things that are good for you. It can take a tone of being hypercritical of you and putting you down for not like immediately going in and brushing your teeth and washing your face and just doing it. It could be trying to motivate you through negative self-talk, in other words. Or it can turn into something that slowly builds positive reinforcement. I believe I've heard it somewhere that it takes 2 weeks to take something and turn it into a habit, to form it into a habit, where if you don't do it, it just feels odd. So you want to do it just because it's part of your day and it reassures you that the world is okay. It's one of those things. It's like comfort food now, pretty much. Having a more positive way of negotiating with yourself instead of shaming self, it's speaking to the self in a positive tone of, well, if you're not feeling up to doing all of this, could you do this piece? At least this piece. We got to at least do something and build off of that. Now, this particular emperor, I mean, just because this particular example is very much about self-care, because that's where you currently are, and I think that's why it came up. This can apply to so many different aspects to your life and how you relate to it and to others and dynamics and work and just so many different ways in how you speak to yourself, how you positively reinforce or negatively criticize to motivate self. This is more on the positive side. The upright emperor is balanced and he's looking to his side. Like he's missing the empress. He's wanting that throne next to his own, which is not there. He's missing that element. So, emotionally, I think this is what drives us in the end result here. To galvanize, to move forward, is to know the receptive aspects or the more feminine aspects of self, the softer side, being able to receive instead of always give. Different aspects to self that we maybe have been taught to relate to in a certain way, being willing to see them in a different light. To say, well, what if I was in that position? How would I feel? Possibly. These kinds of evaluations and questions allows you to understand your energetic counterpart better. Because this is the emperor, he's missing the empress. He's longing for the empress, the reflection. To be willing to place yourself in the other's shoes helps you understand yourself better, and thus them better. You're coming closer and closer to having that. Being that in the end result, we have that death card, that new beginning. It's almost saying that within the next 3 months or at the end of the next 3 months, somewhere in this journey for you, and it'll be different for each person, how it actually lays down on the calendar within the next 3 months of this reading, this emperor will be acting towards what they desire, will be acting towards that empress energy. You could be the emperor and be female. There's no gender here. It's only the archetype that's spoken to. Please feel free to invert however you need to swap them. Because this is all about you, the individual, truly. It's all about you. It's not about an outside energy. All of it is reflecting back to you what's inside of you. So see yourself in every aspect of this reading is to be able to get closer to what you want to manifest reflected back to you. So this is something that will be acted towards within the next 3 months at some point for those that are tuning in. And it will be to bring in the abundance, that empress energy, to complement this emperor. in his balanced state because he chose to overcome. Or she, this emperor, she chose to overcome and choose love, choose light, to manifest that instead of hopelessness. Now, something came through in the meditation before this reading, and it speaks to the concept of the Empress being the part of the dynamic that has the Midas touch. If you understand this narrative, Midas, King Midas, everything he touched turned gold. There's a lot of different metaphors at play within that story, and if this is something that kind of resonates for you, it'd be worthwhile, like, just getting the basic overall narrative of that story. But what does having this ability that everything you give to flourishes, what does that actually mean to you? Or to have someone in your world that can contribute that kind of love, light, joy, happiness, that everything that they interact with ends up better as a result of their interaction. That is what this means to me. It doesn't mean literally gold. It means that every dynamic situation is positively affected by their interaction, however brief, with this energy. Now, this can be a person predominantly. Yes, that is true. But keep in mind, if they are your reflection, you have some of that energy within you as well. So it's not just one side that has this ability. Both sides have the ability, but one is very strong in it. And it is because there's a very close relationship with the divine, a very close tie to always choosing love and light no matter the situation, choosing hope no matter the dynamic, to not give up. And this is something that is the gift to the other side, to the emperor, or, this could be a man or a woman, to the emperor energy. The emperor is the very protective aspect. It's almost like their role is to be like the bouncer, right? To help reinforce the boundary around that empress energy. To be like, nope, sorry, buddy, gotta go. I see something that my empress doesn't see, and nope, you're done. You do not have selfless intentions here. You intend to take and only take. That kind of a thing. It's a protection, a wisdom of being able to see the illusion. This is where the mastery is with the emotions, the feelings, and the intuition. The energy that you are co-creating with, that you are yourself, you're aware of this emperor's role in your world, this reflection of you, or you being this emperor, whichever side you are on. The emperor energy within this, it's mastered. It's been mastered. There is this part of the dynamic within you or within what's being reflected back to you that you're able to, if you're the empress, you're now aware of that illusion, of that deception, of where the boundary needs to be drawn. It's been mastered on both sides. So the empress, there's a reason they're acting, because the empress, the space is ready. The wisdom has been attained on both sides about one another to have that new beginning. Two sides of the same coin. Being the reflection of one another has brought in the mastery of being a balanced emperor, of being a balanced assertive energy on both sides, being able to be capable of seeing that within each other. It's beautiful. Like, I keep trying to find the right words, and it just seems like I'm getting bits and pieces of it. There's so much energy present within this specific card that I'm really feeling like I'm not being allowed to dive deeper into it, to be quite honest with you. I'm feeling as though this is something that is meant to be a bit of a mystery. It's also something that cannot really be fully spoken to in a collective reading because it is so unique to so many within this reading that it just to go any deeper into it would be to do it an injustice for the majority of the collective, as it can't be something that's more refined. For those of you that have tuned in and listened throughout the whole reading, I am incredibly grateful to each and every one of you for co-creating this reading with me. And I do hope that this provided validation for what you intuitively were already kind of picking up on, but possibly needed reassurance or reaffirmation of, that there maybe were some synchronicities present within this reading for you. The divine within me honors the divine within you. The love and light, the joy, the happiness, the hope within me honors the same within you. Namaste.